Welcome back. So what's this all mean? We talk now about technology being everywhere. What's it all mean for us and our futures, right? You have to think about that a little bit. Things you may want to consider, right, is that systems really have changed the way that people work, both on their own and with other people. I remember the first time that was really obvious to me was in one of the early jobs I had when I was younger. And I was working away one day with other folks, and we were working on our computers, and the power went out. There was a lightning storm, and the power shut down. And everyone sort of stopped their work and just stood around talking, waiting for the power to come back on. In the past, when the power had gone out, people didn't really stop their work much. They would just take whatever they were working on, the paperwork, and maybe move next to a window for some light, but they could keep working. But in this case, everything we were doing was on the computer. And so we had no option. We had to stop working. And it just dawned on me that, wow, things are really a lot different. And I hadn't thought of it before. Well, things have continued to change, haven't they? And we work much differently than ever before. It's kind of expected we'll collaborate with people, and often that's online, isn't it? Connect with people and work on documents or projects online, be able to see each other's work. And that's something that didn't happen in the past either, right? So the nature of work now is much different as well. You use technology to do a lot of the mundane stuff for you, the things that are kind of boring, and you're able to go a little bit further and do some interesting things. At the same time, you're also expected to do more in-depth things, aren't you? You're expected to know more about analyzing data, as an example. So in the past, you could get away with a bit of basic Excel. Now employers expect you to know all kinds of things about Excel, be able to create wonderful things. And so there's a different expectation to go with that. Collaboration is a big one. And technology has enabled collaboration like we've really never had before. Right? So we've got networks, we've got the internet. We also have standardization. That's a really key part to collaborating. English is sort of the default language now for doing business internationally, right? And so that's a standard. We have the internet and web browsers all operating the same way, HTML. That's a standard. That's enabled us to communicate. We have all kinds of payment systems and e-commerce systems that are standardized. That lets us move money around and goods and that sort of thing. We've got common platforms for work. Think about Microsoft Office. Everyone has it. Everyone knows how to use it. And we use it in our program because we know that that's something that you'll use later on. And if it's not exactly the same version or even Microsoft made Office, it'll be something very similar, won't it? So that's fine. And think about Google Docs. I can pull up a PowerPoint presentation in there and convert it over and work with it. So we've got these standardized common platforms to get our work done. There's a lot more sharing going on, right? So we're sharing information back and forth, and that's enhancing our kind of shared understanding of things as well. And we have what we call e-business or electronic business, anything to do with business, not just e-commerce, which is involved with the money side of business, but any business transaction that involves the internet or electronic communications. So that might be jointly working on a marketing plan. That would also consider to be e-business. And that's sort of the norm, isn't it? One thing that students often roll their eyes and kind of think about is group projects. Is there going to be a group project in this course? I hate group projects. Not everyone. Some people like them. And by the end, actually, some people are kind of like, oh, actually, I met some interesting folks. But just as often, we get people complaining, oh, my group member is an idiot and nobody works hard and we have no time to meet and all these things. And so collaborating is often a challenge, isn't it, for people because we have other things on the go. What do students often do if we give them a group project? One of the things I found is they'll get all set up with Google Docs or now we've got Microsoft and OneDrive, and they'll start collaborating using technology to make it easier, right? So they'll share things back and forth, and they use technology to improve it. So technology does aid with collaboration, helping us understand and work together, and is kind of expected. One of the reasons we include group projects at all in our business programs is because employers ask us to, right? They know you're going to be working with other people when you graduate. If you're kind of a lone wolf genius, well, that's bad news. You're going to have to learn to work with others. It's just the way it is. There's very few of those individual jobs left anymore. But good news, actually, because working with others is kind of fun, and you do learn a lot along the way as well. Well, business professionals use all kinds of systems today. And so how do, we use these things to make ourselves more productive or more valuable and get more done? We may think of basic things like email. Imagine if you signed up for a course and I said, oh, I don't use email. It'd be kind of weird. I mean, what's wrong with my instructor? He doesn't use email? That's kind of strange. It's kind of assumed. Accessing the internet. If you said on your resume under skills, I know how to access the internet with a web browser, people would kind of just think that was funny and think that you were a moron. But believe it or not, go back 15 years and people would put that on their resume because that was a new thing and it was a valuable skill. Right? So a lot of these things like using word processors and basic spreadsheets, making a PowerPoint presentation, talking on a cell phone, instant messaging, these are all things that you can do, and they're such low-level skills now we don't even think about them, do we? So we have to go beyond that a bit, don't we? So we're going to go beyond the basics now as professionals to be more valuable or more effective. Things we're going to need to know. Well, we're going to have to understand how to use mobile devices, not just phones, but tablets and things like that. That's kind of an expectation now, isn't it, that we're good at that? What about project management software? That's one that you might not have much experience with yet, but being able to use project management software is starting to become sort of a required skill for people because we use it so much. We have software like Microsoft Project, and then there's other free versions like OpenProj and software like that. And in fact, Microsoft has started to enhance some of its project management tools as well. I'm not sure if they've started to include it with the student edition that you got for free, but there's a little project management piece in there too. You'll find also lots of other project management software out there if you look at the web, a lot of it free to use because we know that we're going to manage things, and project management software, one of the big things it helps with, besides scheduling resources, is it helps with collaboration and sharing ideas. Business graphics is another big area that is important. So we see package like Visio or maybe Xmind. That's an excellent mind mapping software that you can use to get things organized. Smart Draw might be another one. And all kinds of things like that that help us draw out what we're thinking so we can make an image of it. That's really good for collaborating and communicating, isn't it? Because a picture is something we can share and we can talk about and we can ask questions about, and we can really clarify what we're thinking that way back and forth, much more so than with just words. Collaboration tools or collaboration software. Another big area. We talked about Google Docs already, I mentioned that. All of the Microsoft Office stuff that you can now use as well. We've got Microsoft Teams and things like that in there too. So there's great things like that to aid in collaboration. And again, we're expected to know how to do that. And then finally, tools for analyzing data. That's another big one, isn't it? And in fact, I would think that's the biggest question I get from students is I want to learn more about data analysis. What courses can I take? There's all kinds of great tools available. We got Power BI from Microsoft. That's one that you may want to look at. Tableau is a similar package. The college used to use Tableau a lot, and they're moving over to Power BI. We have programming languages like R and Python. If you want to get more hardcore into data analysis, and in fact, some business programs are requiring students to learn R, as an example, in their first year so they can use it throughout their programs. So we are having a higher expectation on people now in business to understand some of these tools. All right. Even Excel has changed a lot over the last couple of years. There's some amazing data analysis features that have been added sort of here and there along the way that bring it much closer to something like Power BI. Power BI takes it a step further. So those are things that you could explore on your own if you like to learn more about data analysis if you think that's an area that you might want to get into in your career. But a lot of these things, if we take them all together, are things that go beyond the basics, but are things that we're expecting people to know to some degree. So if you want to gain a competitive advantage as someone entering the workforce, you want to think about, right, or consider the problems or opportunities that confront your department, right, or the organization you work in. That's a good starting point. Problems are really opportunities, aren't they? That's why I put those two together. Here's an old saying, most people don't recognize opportunity because it shows up dressed like hard work. It shows up looking like a problem. But that's really where your opportunities lie, solving problems. In fact, before I began teaching full-time, I was a finance director in an organization, and in my office I had a chair right by the door, and people would often come to visit me, and they would walk in, they'd close the door and sit down in that chair and tell me their problem. And I was sort of known as a problem solver, and that was the tell me your problem chair for people. Because those were opportunities, weren't they? And they helped me go further in my career by having that sort of available. Creatively about problems, challenges, opportunities, whatever it is in our organization. Creative thinking is an important skill and something we can learn to develop over time. Just go to the internet, search for creative thinking, and you'll see there's all kinds of things there. You want to become a creative thinker, right? That's how you become a problem solver. Part of being creative will be thinking of ways to apply new technology and what you know about technology to those problems, right? And all of that in the end will hopefully result in increased business value. If we can increase business value, then people are going to think you're the person they want to hire. So what do you think? Let's take a minute here and think about your career. Everything we talked about so far this week, what implications do you see for your career? If you're going into accounting, what does technology and changing technology mean for future accountants? If you're going into HR, what does it mean there? How about marketing and sales? What about other areas of business like operations? How is it going to change? And believe it or not, maybe before you even graduate. Some of what you're learning now will be outdated before you even get to the end of your program. What are you going to do, or what can you do to increase your personal value? Because let's face it here, I just, for you, in this course, I want you to leave here having something that's going to be valuable to you as you go forward. Sure, you'll get a letter grade, you'll move on and all that stuff, but more important than that, what's going to make you valuable and successful later on? That's what I always try to think about, and it's something you should be thinking about now too, right? So what's it all mean, and what can you be doing to make sure that you come out of this in the best way possible, right? So let's think about your success as we move forward. So that's it for this week in terms of videos. Anyway, I'd like you to read chapter 1 now, if you haven't already. Complete chapter 1 simulation. That's available on the MyLab site, right? So you'll have to go to the textbook site to work on that. By the way, if you'd signed up last week for the free account waiting to get your funding, don't forget to switch over at some point to the paid version because you want to keep your marks and everything going. Complete exercise 1. All right, I've got that posted for you now with all the details. And don't forget, by the end of the week as well, complete that first quiz. Now, have a read through exercise 1 before our Collaborate session this week if you can. Hopefully it's still before that, so that you can ask me any questions. If it's after that already, well, you're still welcome to ask me questions. Just fire them off by email, and I'm happy to chat as well if there's still time to do that. All right, well, good luck with it all, and I'll talk to you soon.